To continue spying out the wisdom to be found in information that we derive from the nature of things as created by nature's God. Now, there are those who claim that science and religion are both viable in their unique and separate realms, and the one should have nothing to do with the other. Science, they say, can provide us with real world knowledge, but cannot provide the values and meaning that make us human. We need religion for that. Some even accuse science of being an enemy to religious values. Science, as in seeing the world as it is, does undermine certain religious beliefs. But science is not an enemy to values, nor is it a slayer of meaning. There are religious values that can actually be derived from science, from seeing the world as it is. For instance, if humility is a religious value, nothing could be more humbling than the pursuit and study of science. Indeed, Christian humility can be seen as an expression of pride when compared to the humility one derives from science. In an essay on science and religion, Albert Einstein wrote, and I quote, "By way of understanding, the scientist achieves a far-reaching emancipation from the shackles of personal hopes and desires, and thereby attains that humble attitude of mind towards the grandeur of reason incarnate in existence." The grandeur of reason incarnate in existence. You know, to free oneself from the shackles of personal hopes and desires, that sounds like a little Zen Buddhism there, right? To exist without desires. To be without desires, your personal desires, your personal hopes, free of that. It's kind of like Zen Buddhism. So you attain this humble attitude of mind towards the grandeur of reason incarnate in existence, and which in its profoundest depths is inaccessible to man. This attitude, however, this is Einstein though, still talking. This attitude, however, appears to me to be religious in the highest sense of the word, and so it seems to me that science not only purifies the religious impulse of the dross of its anthropomorphism, but also contributes to a religious spiritualization of our understanding of life. So, so religion has the idea that, you know, it's all about us. It's all about us. Science comes along and says, no, it's not all about us. Science humbles us by stripping away all of our illusions and labeling us as earthlings. This is what we are. This is our true identity. The identity that's bestowed upon us by nature's God. It is a universal identity, one that unites us all, unlike cultural identities that separate people into opposed, sometimes violently opposed camps. Also, as earthlings, we become painfully aware of our utter dependency on the natural environment, while cultural conceits that place human beings above and beyond the nature of things have allowed for the development of a dangerously cavalier attitude with regard to the ecosystems that sustain us. Not only can we learn humility from science, but contrary to the naturalistic fallacy, we can also derive what ought to be from what is. That's this philosophical theme that you can't know, you can't derive like morality from the nature of things. That has to come from somewhere beyond the nature of things. But in Chance and Necessity, Jacques Monod writes, a living being structure owes almost nothing to the action of outside forces, but everything from its overall shape down to its tiniest detail to morphogenetic interactions within the object itself. It is thus a structure giving proof of an autonomous determinism, precise, rigorous, implying a virtually total freedom with respect to outside agents or conditions, which are capable, to be sure, of impeding this development, but not of governing or guiding it, not of prescribing its organizational scheme to the living object. And also he continues, it is in the structure of living molecules that one must see the ultimate source of the autonomy, or more precisely, the self-determination that characterizes living beings and their behavior. So, it is by virtue of an inherent autonomy that we are endowed with self-determination. It is our nature that necessitates freedom for every individual. It is from the depths of life itself, designed by nature's God, that we are endowed with the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. From this endowment of autonomy, we derive that the enslavement of a human being is a crime against the natural order of things, a crime against nature itself, a crime against nature's God. So, from what is, we derive what ought to be. From our innate autonomy, everyone ought to be free. Now, there are some who claim that everyone who works for a company, anyone who has a job, is a wage slave. This perhaps has been the case. Well, it has been the case under an unbridled capitalism where the treatment of employees was unregulated and employers were allowed to regard laborers as less than human. But to say that all employees for whatever company, all employees from whatever company, for all employees for whatever company, at whatever time fall into the category of wage slaves is absolutely absurd. Now, what really enslaves us all are our instincts, appetites, and drives. And we have no choice but to do their bidding. Our instincts, drives, and appetites. As primitives, we were forced by them, by our instincts, appetites, and drives, to survive by being a member of good standing in a tribe. And we were forced to go out every day in search of food, forced to have sex, forced to reproduce, forced to care for our children. Had no choice. It's the same today. We are enslaved by the same instincts, appetites, and drives, which are all satisfied by making money in a contemporary state. So every day we are forced to go out and make money, go out and earn money. And we do that by being part of a tribe, a collective, a business. That is all arranged by the self-interest, collective interest dynamic that we are forced to comply with. We're not being taken advantage of. We're not being exploited simply by having a job. A society needs to be maintained by the availability of goods and services provided by private and public sector enterprises under the rubric that socialism needs capitalism to fund its programs, and capitalism needs socialism to keep it in check. Now, so that's all the time I have now. So we'll continue this discussion in the next video.